Hello, welcome everyone. We're here for a Q&A for School of Imaginal Healing, the 12-week video course to become the healer of your life and the shaman of your soul. I'm Ann Patricio, course manager for this course and host for this event today as we explore the teachings of Robert Moss and address questions about his new course, School of Imaginal Healing, which begins Wednesday, November the 20th at 10 a.m. Pacific. Now, if you're unable to join us live, you can still participate in this course. I'll be telling you about that and lots of other details later in this session. But first, I want to introduce my guest. Robert Moss is a beloved faculty here at the Shift Network, creator of Active Dreaming, an original synthesis of modern dreamwork and shamanism. Robert's born in Australia. He survived 3 near-death experiences as a child, which provided him with early access to other realms. He's a best-selling novelist, a poet, a journalist, and an independent scholar. And his new book is Mysterious Realities, A Dream Traveler's Tales from the Imaginal Realm. And now, join me in welcoming Robert, who is going to lead us in an opening practice. Welcome, Robert. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Anne. Always good to be with you. Hello, dreamers. Why don't we go to a place where we can find the dreams that are looking for us? I'm deeply wedded to the idea that there are stories, dreams, images, glimmerings of the deeper reality that are on our trail. When I was a kid in Australia, I heard the idea from the first people of my native country, the Aborigines, that, quote, the big stories are hunting the right people to tell them, unquote. Maybe we could generalize it and say the big stories are hunting the right people to live them. I think we change our lives for the better when we step out of the old stories, the limited, self-confining stories, the stories laid on us sometimes by families or other people who have forever tried to tell us who we are and what can be expected of us. We step into the power, the mythic power of a bigger and braver story. And dreams are one of the ways that that kind of story grows with us, grows upon us, comes looking for us. You go dreaming, you're in a place where you might be more easily found by your bigger story. You walk in the world with eyes open like a child to the magic of things that pop up around you, the flowering of signs and synchronicities. And that's another way your big stories can find you. But in our modern lives, often we're going through something like a dream drought, right? We're not tapped into the power of what might be available in the night. We're not remembering dreams from sleep. We're often missing those delicious in-between liminal border states of consciousness between sleep and awake, which is where magic can find us. I want to quote the great source for the magical child in you and in me on those powerful liminal states of consciousness in the night. You're not awake, you're not asleep, you're somewhere in between. I'm going to quote Tinkerbell. Remember Tinkerbell? Peter Pan's fairy friend. Do you remember the old film, Peter Pan? The child in you, if you ever saw it, has not forgotten. Do you believe in fairies? Tinkerbell says to Peter, when Peter is sad because his fairy friend is going away, she says in the Hollywood script, it's not in the original book, Tinkerbell says, fairy advice, look for me in the place between sleep and awake. There is where you can always find me. There is where I will always love you. It's good advice, practical advice. So I want to take you to a liminal state, a border state of consciousness. Sometimes I say, let's go to the movies. Let's go to the cinema of lost dreams and find the dream that might be looking for us. And actually, this is the simplest version of the exercise. It's the one I want to do right now. So I'm going to ask you for a moment to get your gorgeous body in a comfortable, relaxed position and imagine that you are approaching a cinema, a theater that you really enjoy. Maybe a place you remember from earlier in your life, maybe a place, if you're lucky, that you go to from time to time. I think of the art cinema not far from my house, where they have good popcorn, interesting movies, some very unexpected things in foreign languages. Things pop up. So I want you to imagine for a moment that you are approaching the entrance to a cinema, a theater. We've had some fun where you've been excited. Maybe you've been led to tears. Maybe there've been laughter and tears in this cinema. Maybe it's a place where in childhood you saw an animated film that you loved, or maybe you saw it last week. So imagine this. Close or half close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you are approaching the entrance of a cinema that is all about you. Might recall a cinema that you know. You're using memory to pull up the image, the architecture of this magic movie theater. But as you look at the marquee, you'll already begin to see maybe the titles of films that you don't exactly remember. Because this is your cinema of lost and found dreams. A place where dreams that you might have missed in the night can still be found. A place where dreams that perhaps you left unfinished can be continued. A place where maybe a new dream, a new movie for your life is going to be produced right now in a couple of minutes, because it's something that you need to see and inhabit, which will bring your imagination fully alive. And that can change everything. So here you are. Imagine this. You're at the entrance of a place where you're going to have a fabulous adventure for a while. You're stepping through the doors. There's the ticket person, the person at the counter. And she looks at you and you say, maybe I'm here for the dream I need to see right now. I'm here for the movie I need for my life right now. And maybe she says to you, put that down. And you realize you're carrying something that's been holding you back. Can you do that? Maybe you're carrying a heavy bag, some container, some baggage from your life that you don't need with you when you're entering a place of magic. And you maybe put something down and lighten the load, and maybe you take some popcorn or another snack, and you move into a screening room, and here you are. You're in a comfortable seat, and you're leaning back in that seat, and it feels really nice and pleasant and comfortable. And you're seeing what? You're seeing maybe advertisements, commercials, trailers come up on the screen, and there are things there that you recognize that are already speaking to you. What is that lion? Is that the Lion King? Or is that a lion you've known in some other way? Is that a stuffed toy that you had in childhood? Is that a wish, an inspired fantasy that really played around the mind of your younger self? And now the main feature is about to come on, and it's popping up on the screen, and you see images. You see images. Where are you? Maybe you're on a beach. Maybe you're on a beach where you love to slip into the water and just relax and bob in that flow of water and relax and regenerate and let the heaviness of life slip from you and just simply enjoy that motion of the warm water perfectly attuned to your favorite temperature lapping around you. And maybe as you float and flow in the water, you're drawn to a certain scene. Maybe you're in a mermaid cove where the mermaids are singing around you, the mer people, not just female, but male. There are mer people, you know. Maybe you're among them and you hear them singing. Maybe you hear the whale song. Maybe you see a boat bobbing out in the sea and you realize you could pop into that boat and be transported to a place of magic and imagination. Maybe something else wants to play. Maybe it's a movie that has been looking for you in your night dreams, forgotten until now, or maybe your producers are putting something together for you right in this moment. A movie about your life, a vision of possibility. Maybe there are monsters there, but you can overcome them because you're conscious and awake and alive. So this is the way that sometimes when we're in a fertile state, a border state of consciousness, we can begin consciously to embark on the kind of dream adventure that brings alive the magical child in each of us, brings alive the great Imagineer, brings alive that part of us that knows the magic of making things up. And if you do this kind of game, you play this kind of game in a relaxed mode. I like to do it in the middle of the night or an odd moment, maybe a nap in the afternoon. I keep crazy hours when I can, which is much of my time. You can just start out like that and take yourself to the cinema of lost dreams and see what might be playing for you. And if you like it or you're interested in it or you'd like to go further, you might find you're embarking on an adventure in lucid or liminal dreaming. You're conscious, you're awake, maybe you're even hyper awake. Your senses eventually will come alive. You'll have an adventure and you'll bring back gifts. So this is one of the ways that we reclaim our connection with the world of imagination. It's one of the simple ways that if we've been losing out on our night dreams, missing our dreams, which some of us have done for years and years, we can begin to break the dream drought. And when we do that, as I say, the stories that want to be lived through us, the stories that want to play in us, the stories that can heal us, can bring us fully alive, can bring us to lead juicier and more exciting lives, return to us.
We'll be spending the rest of our time together exploring your questions for Robert as we prepare for his video course, School of Imaginal Healing, which begins on Wednesday, November the 20th. Please go over and visit our website, schoolofimaginalhealing.com. That's schoolofimaginalhealing.com to learn more about this 12-week video course, and you'll find a link to register as well. So I want to thank everyone for sending in so many fabulous questions for Robert. And we'll get started with one sent over to our webcast from Barbara. I'm going through a spiritual awakening right now where my old identity is disintegrating and transforming. It has been going on for a while, and now I have arrived to a shift where I strongly feel that I need to bring back the part of my identity that I had previously lost, probably in childhood. I also feel that my given name doesn't exactly fit me anymore, and I'm not sure how to approach these changes or bring back the part of me that I had lost. If you wouldn't mind touching on this topic in your Q&A session, that would be so helpful and appreciated.
This is a huge agenda, and what an exciting one. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful question. I mean, many of us have lost contact with younger self. It's one of the reasons why some of us lose our dreams. We lose contact with that beautiful, bright dreamer. Sometimes this amounts to what shamans call soul loss. We've lost a vital part of our essence, of our identity, of our energy. We need to get it back. One of the things that I teach people to do is to travel back, travel across time, because we dreamers are time travelers. You're going to learn that in the course. Travel back to a younger self in her own time, speak to her in her own mind, and accomplish maybe two things. The first is, I know this for certain sure, we can play mentor, counselor, friend, cheerleader to a younger self at a time of vulnerability or betrayal or hurt or harm or confusion. We can speak in her mind. At the very least, we can say, you're going to make it through. I promise you that. And then we can negotiate with her to bring some of her energy and imagination into our present life. What could I do for you? I like to say to my boy Robert, that would be fun for you to do in my present life. So I have a desk covered with toys, and I draw, and I make maps, and I make pictures, and I do things that my boy child would like. That's part of it. Finding a name is a big thing, isn't it? I mean, names are important. It's very vital in life to have a name that suits you, that suits your energy and helps to define you. Because, to name something in a certain sense is to bring it into the world or to change the way that you are in the world. So I wouldn't rush at that. I'd let the name, if a change of name is required, announce itself and come to you in a certain way. So I often think that if we want to know about reincarnation, Barbara, we need to study how we can rebirth ourselves once or more than once in our present span of years. This is a kind of reincarnation, a kind of rebirthing. It sounds as if you, with the clarity of an awakened one, is approaching that stage. So when we rebirth ourselves, it becomes a test to bring back every part of ourselves that we can use, not deny parts of our life story that were not acceptable from our changed point of view, but find a way to bring it all together, to integrate it. And ultimately, in that cause, I think we need to find a connection not only with the beautiful, bright dreamer from childhood or from our teens, but with a self on a slightly higher level. So a lot of this comes to the effort to reach, make contact with, and bring into focus, into embodied life, a part of our higher self, our greater self. When we're in touch with that, we are able, I think, to bring together different aspects of our identity, different parts of our story, and make harmony and make balance between us. We don't want to leave any part of ourselves that has life and energy behind. We want to find a way to weave it together. So that's another thing that we'll be approaching in this course. We'll be approaching the ways in which we can make contact, regular contact, with the self on a higher level, an aspect of the higher self, and bring its clarity and centeredness to all the aspects of our being so we can be whole.
Thanks, Robert. All right, here's one. Robert, for several months now, I keep seeing repeating numbers, most often on the clock. Example, 444, or other repeating numbers. Is this something I can work with in my dream time? And is there any bit of advice you can lend during your Q&A?
Well, people have different numerology. For me, the repeating number phenomenon, which is common to all of us, merely says pay attention. I mean, pay attention. I mean, a sequence of ones is particularly significant in many cultures. I mean, I remember once at a grocery store, at a supermarket, I had a Chinese guy at the checkout, and my bill was 111.11. He literally jumped up and down. He's waving the receipt there. You very lucky man. You very lucky man. I want to shake your hand because I want some of your good luck. For him, a repeating one was the summit of good luck. I mean, we may or may not feel that, but I would simply say if I notice numbers repeating, pay attention. Now, if I want to do something with the numbers, okay, I'll develop my own numerology. I'm not particularly a numerologist, but because I've done a lot of work and play with tarot over the years, the numbers have significance for me in the context of tarot. And the four for me in tarot, in my understanding of the flow of the numbers, the procession of the numbers in tarot, is about a force that is within a safe containment. You know, the four of wands is like the four of fire, like a fire burning safely within a hearth place, within a fireplace. The four of cups, the four of water, is like water in a pool, maybe a swimming pool. I'm a swimmer. So the four for me is a place of solid, grounded containment. The fundamental energy is contained in a nice way, not bound and confined, but contained in a certain kind of solid structure. So because I have those very positive associations with the four, and other people will have other associations, I think, okay, this is telling me it's time to recognize that I need to ground and find safe structures, effective structures for the energies that are with me, because sometimes within an effective structure, it's easier to jump around and play spontaneously. The structure, like a jungle gym, gives the ability to make amazing leaps of consciousness and even embodiment. But the main thing I would say quite simply is the repeated number says to me, pay attention, something's going on.
Thanks for that. Catherine says, I used to dream a lot, but since my husband passed away, I've not dreamt. Why? And will I ever dream again?
Well, yes, you will dream again. I'm quite certain of it. And if there's a connection with your husband's passing, and I'm sorry to hear that, the way to dream again might be to sit down and have a dialogue with him. And to do this, I would recommend simply setting up a very informal, simple human ritual space. Take a quiet place in the living room or the bedroom or wherever. Put out things you associate with him, picture, memento, something he wore in his body. Put out things he would like to eat and drink. Imagine that he is there, that he's available, and have pen and paper ready and start a dialogue, start talking to him. Because maybe in some sense a curtain came down because of whatever circumstances surrounded his passing. And maybe opening a dialogue with him would be the way to opening the dream space in a larger sense. And I find that this works so well for so many people. Just to imagine that the loved one who has passed on might be available to this kind of encounter. And so we're talking about dreaming wide awake. We're talking about setting up a very simple family altar, things that belong to him, things that are associated with him, and starting the dialogue and writing down without self-criticism, without self-judgment, whatever comes. Just assume that he might be available, and he might turn out to be the one who opens the door again. That's what I would suggest.
Susanna over on Facebook says, I'd be fascinated to learn more about the connection between Dreamwork and alchemy. I keep seeing alchemical symbols, and the more I research, the more they manifest.
Well, I think that the dream time, the dream flow, will give us the things that we need to know. I mean, I remember that Yeats wrote when he was starting to study, the great dead Irish poet, who's very much alive for many of us in our imagination and hearts. Yeats said when he started studying alchemy, he, through synchronicity, was given someone who knew all about it. This was a physical contact, but it came in a dreamlike way. I would trust that the passion that I am investing in a certain object of study, a certain focus of study, in this case, alchemy, is going to bring to me the people, the resources, and yes, the dreams that I need to take me further. I think life is like that. I think when we give ourselves over passionately, with deep intensity to a certain course of study or work or investigation, the resources come to us. Books fly open. Books present themselves we wouldn't know otherwise. Things pop up on the internet. People converge with us because they're drawn magnetically to us. And it's the same with the dreams. If this is a central focus of my study and interest, the dreams will support it. Alchemy is, of course, all about transformation, transforming, and symbolically, it's about transforming the ordinary self into the greater self. It's about personal transformation. The gold that you find starting with lead or whatever you start with might be the gold or the precious metal or the precious jewel of your own soul identity. So your dreams are very interested in supporting you as you go beyond what you are to begin with towards a greater self, which is looking for you in the dream space.
All right, we're going over to, we had a few questions related to trauma and dream work. Cheryl and Claire, actually. Cheryl is saying, please speak about any successes or failures you know of people getting results in working with dreams for attachment issues and trauma in mature life left over from childhood. And Claire is specifically asking about dream work to heal trauma, chronic PTSD, collective trauma using your techniques. Can we rebuild our self confidence and ability to help to have resilience through dreaming states?
Yes, well, the short answer is absolutely in the affirmative. Absolutely, yes. Now, in my approach to dream work, let's note, we pay attention to the images that are presented. The images that might be presented in dreams relating to trauma and PTSD might initially be horrible. So we might be tempted to close down our dreaming. We might be tempted to medicate ourselves or deny the dreams or push them away. But what happens when you decide to go into the jungles that the dream world can sometimes offer and find your way to a place of clarity and healing and resolution, that can be extraordinary. I would say this to you: any image that belongs to you, any image that comes to you, that is yours, is timely and appropriate for you to work with, even if it's initially horrible. When you talk about PTSD and trauma, I'm remembering my work many years ago with a man who'd been a combat officer in Vietnam, and he lost every man in his platoon, and he was haunted. He was literally haunted by his ghost platoon. All the men kept coming at him night after night, screaming at him that he was a coward and a traitor. He'd left his men for dead in the paddies of Vietnam, the jungles of Vietnam. And he approached me for help, and I said, okay, are you willing to go back into these dreams consciously, re-enter the dreams, go back into the jungle, go back into the paddy fields, meet the men one by one, and make your healing with them, make your resolution with them? And he did. I went with him. It was an exercise in what we call dream re-entry and tracking. Dream re-entry is when you go back into a dream, whatever horror or fear it might contain, with the aim of achieving some kind of release and some kind of healing and resolution. And I went with him really just as his friend and bodyguard. He made peace with those dead men. He made peace with the self of himself that had been so brutally traumatized in that horrible, senseless war in Vietnam. And the horrible dream stopped, and he came together, and he was more than he was before. I think that's a soldier's example, but I think there are many examples of this. And so we are going to work in our approach with whatever images present themselves. Jung took a similar approach, which he developed as what he called active imagination. He basically said, in paraphrase, said Jung, any image that belongs to you can be a source of healing and resolution if you're willing to do the work. Now, the work might be challenging. You might need support. You might need family support. In our courses, in the Shift Network courses, for example, we build an astonishing community of caring, passionate, creative people who support each other's soul odysseys, going into the deepest, darkest places and helping each other to come through. And we recruit allies and supporters for all of this. For example, the first class in the new course is called Enter the Cave of the Dreaming Bear. What's that about? Well, Great Mother Bear, Akwari, is a great ally in this work. She's a great ally to me personally. I had to face up to terrifying dreams in which a bear was scaring me before I made the connection with the great healing animal of North American tradition, also known to our European and Asian ancestors. And I find today that when any of us wish to approach the situation of a younger, traumatized self and the part of ourselves that is still carrying the trauma, if we travel with an ally like Great Mother Bear, great healer and protector, and feel her energy with us, feel her in our aura, feel her ability to embrace with love the wounded part of ourselves and heal that part and bring us together with us and make us one. We're operating in a totally new way. So we are humbly and lovingly open to the idea we do not have to face these things alone. We don't have to face them either with just with a particular therapist or a particular friend. We can face them with allies we recruit from the larger reality. We work, for example, deeply with the power animals. We work deeply with spiritual guides available from a higher level, and we work within a family, the best kind of intentional family, of spirited dreamers from all over the world map who are going to support us in our soul journeys and help us to come through.
All right, we have a couple questions from Angela and Ligia about the journeys that you will be taking us through in this course. Can you speak a bit about how you'll use journeying and specifically how we protect ourselves while having these journeys or going on these journeys?
We are always protected. We start every class, as I start every day of my life, by invoking the gatekeeper. May our doors and gates and paths be open, and our doors and gates and paths between the worlds. And may the doors and gates and paths of any who wish to do us or those we love any harm be closed. We're speaking to that energy, that entity who has a personal identity in many traditions that opens and closes doors in life. And these words, which are syncretic words I put together, reflecting several traditions, they work. So we are calling on greater forces to protect our work, sustain our bodies, while in spirit we're traveling beyond the body. The journeys in the courses are sometimes powered by shamanic drumming, my own shamanic drumming. Sometimes they're powered by nature sounds. Sometimes we've been using the power of water very successfully in recent courses, the power of a flowing river, for the flowing river, the streaming river that can release the old burdens, the old traumas we are carrying, that can set us free, the sounds of a bubbling spring that help to bring new ideas, new creativity into focus, the sounds of rolling ocean breakers that can carry us from where we are across an immensity towards the island of our heart's desiring. So we're using nature sounds, particularly water sounds. We might experiment further with that. And the journeys are always focused. I mean, we always set very clear intentions. There's nothing floppy about them. Whenever possible, the portal to the journeys is a personal dream or image. I mean, I work with immensely rich imaginal architectures, by which I mean there are real places in the world of true imagination. There are temples, there are places of initiation and advanced education, there are places of regeneration and healing, there are places of contact with wise teachers and the ancestors on the right level. There are, of course, places where we can meet the dead who are alive and living in transition spaces or places of new education and opportunity. We journey to all those places, but my favorite portal for a shamanic journey is a personal image or dream that has some energy with it, because you know if it's yours. Maybe it came to you in a fearful or mysterious way, but you know if the image belongs to you, it's right for you to work with it. So often in our journeys, I will say, okay, we're going to call up the dream or the image that is clamoring for your attention right now. Maybe it's a dream of romance and adventure you like more. You interrupted. You had to go to work. The kids got you out of bed. Maybe you'd like to go on with that wonderful adventure. Maybe it's a dream of fear that you left as a broken dream, as a nightmare because you couldn't face it. Maybe it's time to go back through that space, into that space, and dream the dream onward to healing and resolution. That's what happened for me with the bear. I was scared of the bear. When I went back in conscious dream reentry, a conscious journey, the bear turned out to be a remarkable ally who's never failed me or those who work with me. So the journey is an integral part of the course, and we do things that are pretty radical. For example, we are very interested in questions like, how does your present life relate to the lives of other personalities and other places and times that are not just going on in the past or future, but are going on now? In other words, if you're connected to that girl in Renaissance Greece, in Renaissance Italy, or Paleolithic times, or in the possible future, maybe her life story is going on right now, and maybe by connecting with her across time and place, you can do some good for each other. Maybe in the parallel worlds, in the parallel worlds of the many worlds hypothesis in physics, maybe you really do have parallel selves who made different life choices, as the parallel you who stayed with him or left him and made a different choice, a parallel self who became an artist instead of whatever else you did, a parallel self who made a different life choice. Maybe you can connect with those parallel selves and derive lessons and gifts from their experience. So we journey on things like that. We journey across time. We recognize we are time travelers. We journey into the possible future for real. We check out challenges and opportunities that lie ahead, and from that we harvest. We harvest incredible guidance on making better choices in life. We journey for guides and allies. We journey for the power animals. We journey for the bird allies, so they lend us their power of vision and their power of flight. So journeying is very much part of this. And we journey to develop images for healing ourselves and others. I don't think you'll be disappointed in this part of the course at all. It's amazing how fast it worked. I didn't know when I was first invited by the Shift Network to do online courses 5 years ago that the journeying could work so remarkably quickly in a few minutes for most people who are willing to undertake the adventure.
Yes, absolutely true. I've experienced it myself, actually. Viviane says, my dreams over the past few weeks have been more like a parallel life, including normal day-to-day activities. Sometimes I wake up exhausted. Can you speak of this?
Well, sometimes our dreams are a parallel life. I mean, Jung came to this conclusion too. He only wrote about it rather late in his long life, but he came to the conclusion that in dreams we are leading continuous lives, or rather, we perceive continuous lives we're leading somewhere else. I guess the question is choice. I mean, how much time are we going to spend in a certain environment or habitat, whether it's the dream world or the ordinary world? We don't want to wake up exhausted. I wonder whether what you're doing with those dreams after you experience them, are you writing them down? Are you doing something with them? Maybe if it's happening again and again, it's because there is something to be harvested from those experiences, something to be done with them. Sometimes the same scenario plays out. I'm not saying that a parallel life story is simply a recurring dream. It's not. But sometimes a recurring situation will be presented again and again, because our dream producers or our dream mediators, those parts of our being that make dreams available to us, wants us to get something from this and apply it and do something with it. So I wonder if I'm dreaming those dreams and recording those dreams, if I look at them and ask myself, what relevance does this have to my present life? Am I supposed to derive something from it? For example, if it's a parallel life where I made a different choice and things worked out differently, am I supposed to learn something from that and apply it? If things seem to be working out better in that parallel life, should I adjust something in my present mode of behavior or action? If something is not working out in that parallel life, can I learn from that and navigate differently in my present life? These are some thoughts about it. I mean, dreams are real experiences. I suppose I have to say this. Dreams may be a field of action or interaction with other players, with other people, in realities that are no less real than ordinary reality. And what we endure there or experience there may sometimes have consequences on our physical body and our physical energy. So we can't ignore that factor. I mean, sometimes people talk about dreams as if they're a less real realm of experience in physical life. I disagree with that. I think that we are in dreams sometimes when we're in a completely coherent universe with its own physics, its own logic, its own consequences, and sometimes that redounds upon the physical body in our present space. I can be exhausted by dreams, for example, when I go flying across oceans. I travel a lot. I came back from 23 hours of travel yesterday after midnight last night in my physical reality. I think I'm doing all right, but we do that in dream reality too, and so we might suffer the equivalent of jet lag or travel fatigue from our dreams. I think at the end of the day, it's important to recognize we have choice over where we go, what we do, and what we do about it in any reality. So if I'm dissatisfied with the consequences of dreaming in a certain mode, I can probably try to calibrate and set certain designs or objectives for my dreaming to minimize that kind of side effect. I think that's the best I can say for now.
That's great. So we are here with Robert Moss, learning about his next course, School of Imaginal Healing, which begins on Wednesday, November the 20th. Please head over to schoolofimaginalhealing.com for all the details and to register. I'll take you through a couple more questions and then give you a few more details about this course so you know what's in store for you. I want to share this one. Galia says, no questions. I just want to stimulate my imagination, and I find Robert Moss very inspiring. I agree with you, Galia. So Kevin and Susan are asking, say that again, Robert?
I said she's a lady of great taste and discernment.
All right, Kevin and Susan are asking about intentions and manifestations. How can we use Dreamwork to harness the power of intentions and manifest what we are after?
Well, I learned more than 30 years ago now from an ancient indigenous woman of power and a Rondiwano of Huron and Mohawk tradition. The dreams show us the secret wishes of the soul. The old word for that is ondinok. It means the secret wish of the soul, especially, is revealed in dreams. Now, if we're going to set intentions for manifestation, the reason that so many people in the New Age scene get it wrong is they make a grocery list of intentions for manifestation based on, a head level of understanding or, sort of wish list of yummy things you'd like to have. If we're going to manifest effectively, we want to go deeper. We want to get at what the soul wants or what the heart wants. Want to get at our deeper desires. And sometimes these are not obvious at all. We tell ourselves we want this or that, but actually the heart has a logic that logic knows not of, as Pascal said. Heart has a logic that logic knows nothing about. And the soul has its own agenda and its own wishes, which transcend the ego and the ordinary self. And dreams can sometimes put us in touch with that. They really, really can. Let me give you a quick example. Many years ago, when I was still writing commercially popular thrillers, I was a New York Times best-selling author, which looks good from the outside. Actually, I was rather bored and unhappy with my life. I much prefer what I'm doing now. I've got yet another contract with yet another big check. And so I set the intention for my dreams, show me how to get this book done, because the book was not prospering. My heart was not really in it. But I've set a certain agenda. I think what I want is to put another big check in the bank, and I'll look to my soul later on. And I dream that I'm at the entrance to a vast restaurant like a banquet hall, and it looks really good. The silverware is gold rather than silver. The plates are the finest porcelain. It's laid for hundreds of people. It's all in my honor. And in the dream, I'm a bit puffed up. Feeling really good. This is all about me. How great. Well, the maitre d' is not happy. He comes up quivering with fear. And I say, "What's the matter with you?" He says, "Mr. Moss, there's a problem in the kitchen." "What is the problem?" I say to him. He says, "The master chef doesn't like your menu. He's not going to cook any more stroganoff." Stroganoff is a Russian dish. I was planning to write another Russian thriller. "The master chef will not cook any more stroganoff. If you insist on this menu, you'll have to order short order. You'll have to hire short order cooks out in the street." I wake from the dream embarrassed, humiliated, humbled, and laughing at myself, because the dream is telling me my soul is not in the project that my ego is insisting on. So I tore up a contract because of that dream, and I did something else. So the dreams will help you reset, recalibrate what you think is important in life. They might even show you what the Czechs, I just come back from the Czech Republic, call your poslanie, your life purpose. And then you can set your intentions for manifestation in a deeper space. Then you might accomplish something which is essential to the art of manifestation, as we will learn and practice it in the School of Imaginal Healing. And it's this. If you want to manifest the best in your life, go to what your heart desires, find out, ask your heart what it desires, and dreams are part of that. And make sure as you set your intentions that your body believes in your project. Get the assent of your body, the consent of your body, and make sure that you're doing in such a way that you attract the intention and the interest of larger powers, like your own creative spirit, which forever wants you to do something beyond your present comfort zone. Take a risk, bring something new into the world. That is the heart of creative manifestation, to formulate your intention so strong and grow it into a vision so real and so vivid and so sensory that you can hold it in your body, in your senses, and enlist in your cause the consent and the support of greater powers. That's what the manifestation process, as I teach it and practice it, is all about. Excellent questions.
Heather says, "I keep dreaming about snakes, big ones. How would you guide Heather to work with this?"
Well, I'd want to know Heather's feelings. How do you feel about the snake dreams? Because feelings are the first thing we need to consider in relation to a dream. The snakes in your dream, Heather, may not be the same as the snakes in my dream or anybody else's. And the snake in one dream might be different from the snake in another. They might be big ones. They might be big agents for healing. One night when I was getting pretty sick, I asked for healing from the night, something we will learn to do in the new course. I did it the old Asclepian way, the way that was practiced in the temples of dream healing around the ancient Mediterranean that prospered for 1,500 years. I asked for healing, and a huge serpent appeared and twined itself around me and worked through my body, and in the morning I felt much better. That's an experience that pilgrims to the ancient temples of healing actually asked for. That is why the snake wrapped around the staff of Asclepius, the Greek god of healing through dreams, is still the symbol of our medical business. See it on ambulances, see it on hospitals, see it on a medical letterhead. So the snake might be medicine. The snake has the power to shed its skin. The snake lives close to the earth. The snake might work its way through our body and raise our kundalini, raise the serpent energy inside our body. Or the snake might be a warning of poison. The snake might be an enemy. The snake might be something that we need to watch out for. We can't say in general, But although I'm not the most enthusiastic person in the world about snakes in the physical world, I grew up in Australia, which has more venomous snakes than any other country. So my lack of an automatic enthusiasm about snakes, apart from harmless grouse snakes and so on, is maybe understandable. I'm a big enthusiast in general about snakes in dreams. And the first thing I think about them quite often is what might seem like poison in a certain context might be medicine in another. The appearance of the snake leads us to discern what is medicine versus what is poison. The snake lives close to the earth. The snake is allied in a sense to the great earth mother, and there's always healing to be found in her realm. And maybe on an everyday basis, the snake's power to drop the old skin, drop the history of attachment and failure and disappointment and old symptoms is something we could all borrow to be able to step out of the snake skin of your old life and start the day afresh and anew, as the snake seems to be able to do. That is a great gift. That accomplished in meditation, I've seen leading to enormous healing. But as I say, I want to hear the specifics of each dream, starting with, how did you feel about this particular encounter?
Thanks for sharing that, Robert. So we have time for a few more questions. And again, thanks for sending over so many great questions for Robert. Before we take those, I want to give a few details about School of Imaginal Healing. So as you can tell, this is just going to be an inspiring 12 weeks with Robert, where you'll reclaim the playful, spontaneous, and creative child within. The 12-week course takes place on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, starting November the 20th. Note that we will be skipping the weeks of Christmas and New Year's holidays. And if for any reason you're unable to join us live, you won't miss the teachings. You'll receive audio and video transcripts, replays. Let me say that one again. You'll receive audio and video replays, transcripts, and any handouts through our course homepage, which is like your virtual classroom. Also, I'd like to remind you that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until December the 4th, in this case, to make sure you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome and encouraged to connect to our private course Facebook community group. That'll allow you to stay connected to one another and actually to Robert, who is very active on his Facebook groups during his courses. Now, everyone who registers receives the School of Imaginal Healing bonus collection. And this includes 3 permanent bonuses. One is active dreaming to heal our relations with the departed and meet our soul families. This is an audio dialogue with Robert. The next one is the House of Time, accessing past, future, and parallel lives. This is a trio of journeys from Robert. And the third is Active Dreaming Toolkit, Robert's medley of tools. And when you register by midnight Pacific, November the 13th, you will receive this special video bonus from Robert, 12 Treasures of the Twilight Zone. Join Robert on a path of discovery into the Twilight Zone, a space between waking and sleep, a liminal zone of treasures in creativity, problem-solving, expansion, and so much more. All right, we're going over to a question from Maya. Like I said, we had lots of questions from people about ancestral healing. How do we release the burdens, negative habits, and traumas of those ancestors that have come before us that we have taken on early to be able to live a guilt-free and thriving life?
This is such an essential question. Thank you for it. It's so vital. First of all, we need to ask for help for us and for the ancestors who are still wounded, attached, and need release. We need to ask help. We need to ask spiritual guidance and counsel for them as well as for ourselves. We need to recognize that energy, spirit, consciousness survive physical death on several levels. By the way, let me say, I have no theology about all of this, but I know this for certain sure. You become an active dreamer, you'll cease to have any doubt that consciousness or soul survives physical death. You'll simply know that. Whatever the rest of your opinions might be, they can be anything you like, but you will know that soul or consciousness survives death. You'll know that through first-hand experience. I promise you that. So having said that, when it comes to our relations with the ancestors who are still burdened, maybe staying close to the living because they haven't resolved things, because they haven't dealt with unfinished business, maybe because they don't know exactly that they're dead, because they still know pleasure and pain, they still seem to have bodies. We have to learn to work on several levels and become psychopomps, which means guide of souls sometimes, for our ancestors as well as for people nearer to us in our present lives and in our own lives. And that means, as I say, asking for help, recognizing that help is available. I mean, the spirits like this work. There are angels, if you like. There are helpers available for this work. Are plenty. There are plenty of them. Then we need to recognize that we need to talk to the deceased if they are lost or confused, in the understanding that maybe we can solve something together. Maybe they need healing and forgiveness. Maybe they need something that will open their imagination to the possibility that they can make amends for things that went wrong and that they have happier places to go than the ones that they might have been inhabiting. Yeats, the poet, said with poetic clarity, "The living have the ability to assist the imaginations of the dead." I've seen this to be true many times. I've seen people, and I myself have helped in this respect, who have assisted. People have been stuck, lost, or confused in some place beyond physical death to move on. And sometimes we need a physical ritual. It can be a very simple one. Sometimes we need to take or construct an object that can hold some aspect of the heavier energy of the dead and literally bury it in the ground so that that is not still around bothering the living and detaining the departed from following their correct way. I have a lot of experience in these areas, and I guess I was called to it because as a boy I was pronounced physically dead twice. We didn't have the phrase near-death experience back then. The doctors just said when I was 3 years old in a hospital in Hobart, Tasmania, with pneumonia and lost vital signs, they just said to my parents, "Oh, he died." And then when I came back, they said, Oh, wait a minute, your boy died and he came back. And then I was pronounced clinically dead again when I was 9 years old and seemed to live a whole life somewhere else. So it's nothing exotic for me. And perhaps it's not exotic for many of you to understand that the departed are still alive. They don't have physical bodies, but they're alive in a different sense, on different levels of reality, with different levels of understanding. And the great healing and forgiveness can flow from that recognition, that awareness. And sometimes the healing and forgiveness is for us. Sometimes the healing and forgiveness needs to more proceed from us to then. But there is great, great mutual healing available through conscious engagement between the living and the deceased. So in this course, although it's only one of the classes, we are very concerned with growing our imagination of what is possible in the healing relationship with the departed and the ancestors.
Thank you. So Bibi and Paulina share that they don't remember their dreams. Is this course for those who only remember dreams, or how will they be able to, develop this skill?
Well, absolutely, this course is for you. I mean, lots of people come to my courses who've been going through a dream drought, sometimes for 30 years or more. And we see the dream drought break. For example, I mean, this is infectious. You're going to be with a lot of people who love dreams and images, and it's going to get through to you. But let's remember, we're going to do a lot of dreaming wide awake. We're going to do all sorts of games of imagination, and we're going to learn how to use synchronicity, how to wake up to the dreamlike play of signs and symbols around us in the ordinary world. We're going to go to places where your lost dreams can find you. I gave you a tiny little example of that at the start of this Q&A. And you're going to discover that, in a sense, we're dreaming all the time. I mean, we can walk in this world looking at the pop-up symbols around us as a set of dream images. We can walk out into the world with an intention for guidance on our mind and receive the first unusual, unexpected thing that comes up as a dreamlike message from the world. And my goodness, there is such guidance and such excitement and such magic in doing that. And we'll play some simple games from early on in the course that will help you to start recognizing that you do have dreams. For example, you may not have remembered a dream for years or decades, but your child had some dreams, and maybe you'll remember, wait a minute, I was 5 years old or 9 years old and I dreamed. Maybe there were monsters or giants in the dream, but I remember that. There was a dream. And then I'll teach you how you can go back to that dream of your childhood self and help her in that childhood dream when things might look big or monstrous or giant-like, because a kid is rather small and vulnerable. And in doing that, you're bringing your dream life alive again. You're connecting with your younger self. And when you connect with your younger self, let me slow down and say this as clearly as I can. When you connect with your younger self, you might be able to bring back that beautiful, bright dreamer who left your life, who left your psyche when the world seemed so cold and cruel. That's probably the principal reason why so many of us are out of touch with our dreams, not just bad habits, not just not making room for them, not just having a fun, fast way of sharing this stuff, which you'll learn in the course, but that we lost track at some point in our lives when the world seemed cold and cruel, with a beautiful, bright dreamer in our soul. You're going to get her back. When she comes back, everything else will flow from that.
It's beautiful. Ruby asks, will you be taking us into the lower world, middle world, upper world, all three perhaps?
No, you'll go to all those places. And this is a very simple shamanic tripartite cosmos. And it works as a structure for many things, but you'll also be going beyond that simple geography. You'll be going to places which do not necessarily need to be assigned to the upper, the middle, or the lower realm. You'll be going, for example, to what I like to call the imaginal realm, the realm of true imagination. Is this middle world, upper world? Well, you can discuss that if you want to put it inside the shamanic geometry, which I don't disagree with at all. But you're going to find that you are going to places beyond that simple threefold cosmos. However, you'll find contacts, you'll find allies, you'll find initiations available in all three realms. And you're going to learn very early on in the course to grow your own personal tree of vision as a departure point, a launch pad for all your journeys and adventures, lower world, middle world, upper world, and travels across space and time. You'll learn that it's not so difficult to become a shamanic tracker, able to travel across space and time to get reliable information for yourself and others.
All right. Anita asks, how much pre-knowledge is required to take your course?
I assume that everybody who comes to this is going to be willing to jump in the deep end and get on with it. So you're going to go deep early on, but I'm not asking for any prerequisites. I'm not asking that you did previous courses or even read my books, wonderful though they are, much though you're going to want to read them. I'm thinking that if you're feeling the call to the course, you are ready and it will all be given to you. We do provide within the course a basic toolkit of active dreaming techniques, because let me stress, this is an original school. It offers original techniques, starting with our quick, fast, fun way of talking about our dreams and stories to someone else, opening a safe space for such discussion, and guiding each other towards action while offering feedback from our personal experience and observation of a non-authoritarian kind. Just learning our quick lightning dreamwork process for sharing stories of any kind actually is a great benefit in itself. It will deepen your relationships beyond the course with other people, will make it possible for you to talk about stuff that might have been taboo. So you get the practice of that kind of thing. You get toolkits to bring you up to speed on these core techniques. So I think if you're feeling the call, you're absolutely ready. But as I say, be prepared to go deep from the very first class.
Mm. Tharcilio really wants to get this question in. Send it through webcast and also through Facebook. Some say that it is possible to return consciously to the source, and when the mind ceases, consciousness remains. But when we wake up, we forget that we were conscious in the consciousness. Can you speak to that possibility to be consciously aware in this returning to the source during the dreamless sleep?
Well, you're using interesting words, Arsenio, and perhaps you're familiar with Sri Aurobindo. You remind me a little bit of Sri Aurobindo's comments about this and what he called the sleep of experiences, which is a sleep beyond dreams. And he's not really talking about sleep. He's talking about a place of consciousness, returning to the source, perhaps in the way that you do. Let us understand this. I mean, we're engaged with a spectrum of consciousness that has, many gradations along its great arc, along its great curve. I'm in favor of bringing as much into consciousness and into application in our everyday lives as possible. I want us to be more empowered and more embodied in terms of consciousness in the everyday world. So my prime interest as a teacher and as someone alive in this world is to bring to consciousness and even to verbal and artistic and creative expression things that have not been easy to represent or to talk about before. So although on the one hand, we can make a journey to the source, we can go, if you like, to move it into more contemporary scientific terms, we can go to a quantum point, perhaps, from which we can see all sorts of possible events that might be born from that moment of potential manifestation, that unmanifest place from which manifestation will take place. We can go to that place and look across the many realms of possibility, at the many parallel worlds of different things that could come into manifestation for us and others. But at the end of the day, I want us to know how to make the right choices with that kind of information, how to use it to do better in our lives and how to help our world do better. So, my approach as a teacher of these things is towards embodiment, towards expression, towards manifestation, and of course, towards the delight, the pure joy of playing with our images and finding that they can bring so much through healing for the body, memory of what the soul wants, and connection with others.
Mhm. Thanks so much, Robert. We have one last question from Sigrid. I love to daydream, and I often find them very potent. I learn a lot through them. But some of them I would really like to live them, experience them. Is there a way to draw them into reality? Because I haven't found a way yet. Love to hear from you.
Well, that's a very interesting question, Sigrid, and I appreciate it greatly. I mean, one of the things that I teach and practice is you grow that daydream, you grow that into a vision. You grow it into vision that you can hold in your body as well as in your mind. I know that one of the questions about we haven't got to so far is about the imagination and the body. We have to grow visions that the body believes, that we can hold in our inner senses. And that's one way of making them real. If you can bring from a reverie, from a daydream, from a dream of possibility, something that you can hold in the juiciest way in your senses so that your body believes it, so you can return to the taste, the touch, the sound, the visuals of that element in the vision, then you've got a chance of bringing your destination towards you. Then you've got a chance of manifestation. So it's a question of practice and returning in your inner senses as well as in your mind to the most delicious, most delightful, most potent part of that vision. That's part of the key to turning what you call a daydream into a vision that can take root in the world.
Well, thank you, Sigrid, for that question. Thanks, Robert, for those answers. And this has been a wonderful and fast hour with all of you and with Robert. Thanks so much for the questions. And School of Imaginal Healing begins Wednesday, November the 20th. Again, please go over and visit our website, schoolofimaginalhealing.com, to learn more about this wonderful course and to register. And if you do so by midnight, November the 13th, you'll receive this special video bonus called 12 Treasures of the Twilight Zone. Robert, I'm handing it over to you for any final words, anything on your heart you'd like to share today.
Well, I love the questions that we received. I mean, this fills me with joy and optimism about just how good the new course is going to be, because the course is not just about me, it's about the community that we create and their ability to stimulate wonderful discussions and to push each other in the direction of manifesting their deepest desires. And the questions shared here, the liveliness of it, fill me with great joy and hope for what we're going to do together.
Agreed. Thanks, Robert.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And on behalf of all of us here at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or on one in the future. Be well.